Academy. It is time for us to visit the outer fringes, and with me today is Eddy Garabito, Father Blue, to talk about blue tree monitors. Hello, Eddy.
Hey guys, hey, what's up? What's up? Thanks for having me on board today. I'm really excited for today's chat.
Oh, yeah, this is going to be fun. Now, for everybody who has been keeping track of what's been going on here, I released an interview I did with Eddy last Friday. And so you could have heard a detailed description about Blue Tree Monitor Care and what the community is like. And so today we'll do a little bit of talking about Blue Tree Monitors, but it's really a question and answer session. So as soon as you guys have any sort of questions for Eddy about the community, about Blue Tree Monitors, about how he maintains such a dashing appearance, you just write them in the chats and we'll take them. So we'll have a brief conversation here about how things are going and about the Blue Tree Monitor community, but don't be shy. Just throw down your questions whenever you got them. So, Eddy, tell us how things are going over there.
Everything at the Blue Tree House is doing pretty good, to be quite honest. Everyone is eating, thriving, living, doing well. A lot of my projects and everything like that are going good. I'm seeing some. It's early into the or it's like midway through the breeding season, so I'm seeing a lot of activity. A lot of my females are looking. Hello. Whoa, what happened?
All right. All right. We had some very interesting things going on there. Anyway, you had a lot of breeding activity.
Yep. Some breeding activity for sure so far from my males, courting females and things like that. So it's been good. It's been a good season. My grasshopper production has been crazy right now. I never thought I'd be swarming with grasshoppers, but that's a good thing as well. And then yeah, everything else for the most part is doing really well.
All right. So, do your Blue Tree Monitors like grasshoppers?
They actually do. It's crazy how much of a feeding response that I get from these animals, feeding them the grasshoppers compared to like a rodent or crickets or anything that really moves like crazy would draw their attention like immediately. And it also goes apart with where they're from. They're like native, prey that they're eating are going to be like katydids and grasshoppers and some locusts and such. So it's just an easy thing to give them, and then they'll just go crazy over them, to be quite honest.
Now, how does that compare to their feeding response with dubia?
Not so well. Dubia, because the way that I feed dubia is I'll put them in a little deli cup, something like I put them in like a little deli cup, a small one right here, and I'll leave them here. But the problem with dubia is that dubia, they don't move around once they're in a
Yeah.
cup. They don't move around much, so they don't give the best feeding response. I have one male El Chapo who he'll eat up dubia, like he'll snatch it before I could even put it in front of him. So he loves those and he'll eat them all day. But the grasshoppers, they just get this response from the monitors that I've never seen in any other animal. And honestly, that's just like, yeah, it's amazing, honestly, to see that.
Okay. Well, we have somebody is asking to see your monitors. Is there anyone that is tame enough to come out, or should we just take a phone too?
Yeah, I can possibly bring one out. Let me see if I can grab one real quickly.
Okay. All right. All right, Nathan, you're getting your wish.
I'll bring the one out that's right here actually.
All right.
She's a little I don't really handle my monitors, to be quite honest. She'll go a little bit crazy like as soon as I go in the cage, but once I have her in my hand, she'll be a little bit more calm. And she's gonna be my youngest one out of the whole bunch. So
Yep. This is all for the animals. So if this doesn't work out, that's fine. We like to be ambassadors for our reptiles, and sometimes that means showing them. But generally speaking, we like leaving them happy in their cage. But yeah, actually, I'm excited to see this too.
here goes. Here's my smallest female that I have. She's about maybe, I would say she's about like a year and a half old or so, like that.
Uh huh.
I've only had her for so long. I've had her for about a year now. But she's on the smaller side. She'll grow. She'll probably get about like two times bigger in terms of like thickness. You can see she's a very small little belly,
Yeah.
very long tail, very long tail. She has probably like another, I would say like another foot and a half to grow. But body wise, she'll thicken out, get a little bit wider, get everything like that. But for the most part, this is her right here.
She's so beautiful.
Yeah. Cool little guy. Cool little guy. Again, the smallest little female in my group. She lives alone right now in a cage that's 4 foot by 4 foot by 2 feet deep. And
Okay.
yeah, she's doing pretty fine by herself and everything like that.
Okay. How long, if they're living by themselves, how long would they do well in a 4 by 2 foot by 4 foot tall cage?
I mean, to be quite honest, there are people that that'll keep them like that completely for their entire life and everything like that. And they do well. I'm an advocate of like more is better in my
Yeah.
opinion. So once she gets a little bit bigger, I'll move her into one of the other cages. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 6 large 7 by 7 by 7 foot by 4 foot by 30-inch cages. So she'll move into one of those permanently. But no, like I said, there's a gentleman out in Canada, Brandon, who
Uh-huh.
who runs a Canadian Cold Blood, who's like one of the top blue tree monitor breeders or tree monitor breeders in all of North America. And he keeps his in a 4 by 4 by 2. He does well. He's probably the most rampant breeder in on this side. So, to each his own. But again, it's
Okay.
a touchy subject. I'm more of more is better for these guys.
Okay. Well, we got some questions here.
For sure.
Let's see. Okay. Nathan is saying they seem to be much tamer than black monitors. Do you find that to be true?
I would say, it's kind of dependent on the animal, to be quite honest. I think green tree monitors, in my opinion, have been the most popular in terms of like easy to care, easy to handle, and everything like that. The blues tend to be flighty. Like this one's a younger one who I don't work with too much because I don't want to like scare her or have her have any issues or anything like that. My older ones, I can pick them up, I can lift them up, move them around the cage, I can feed them. They'll put on my arm. They tend to get calmer, but any animal will get that way as long as you like work with it. The more you
Okay.
work with it, socialize with it, the better they are. But again, I'm more of a guy I'm hands off with my tree monitors just because I'd rather not stress them out, as much as I could.
Okay. Let's see. We got a question. Do they? Oh, by the way, for everybody, Facebook likes to be private about who you are. So when I put up a question, it's Facebook user. If you want us to know your name, go ahead and add your name at the end, kind of like a signature. That's just a quirk of the software. But question is, do they calm down with handling from a young age? If you handle them from a young age.
Well, again, that goes into part with kind of the approach you want to do with tree monitors. So a lot of people, because they're like very delicate animals, they tend to not want to handle them. They'll want to leave them alone in their cage and just let them like chill out. That way you have a monitor that you can make sure it's eating, that's comfortable, that isn't too skittish or anything like that. But the more you do handle them, the more they do tend to calm down and everything like that. And a cool person who's worked with his monitor that I would definitely take some advice from is Dion from Reptiliatus.
Oh yeah.
Done with Sabzi and his other tree monitor are amazing. Honestly, the fact that he can get that monitor to come out and run up his arm and hang out with him, and there's a ton of other people. I think her name is Kate. She's the reptile whisperer on Instagram or something like that. She has these green tree monitors that are so beautiful. They'll hang on her arm or on her shoulder, just hanging out, chilling, eat from her hands, like beautiful. So it depends on the animals. I would say all of my animals at one point were super skittish, didn't want anything to do with me. I couldn't even get near their cages without them like nose diving to the floor. And now I go in and they'll come up, they'll smell the cage with their tongues. They're waiting for food for me to come in. They've kind of learned who I am as their keeper, and so they're a lot more chill now because of that, But it comes with time and working. So I'm not gonna say every monitor is gonna be that way, but as more you work with it, the more it gets accustomed to you being there, the calmer it'll become,
Now, how much do they recognize you as an individual person? As in, if somebody else came in, would they say, "Whoa, okay, you're a stranger. We don't know you."
Yeah, I think that has to do. I'm not a scientist, so I don't know how strong their smell is, whether they can pick up certain like pheromones or smells of individual keepers. But I have noticed that when I go to the cage, my lizards are curious to me being there. They're like, what is he doing? Is he feeding us? Is he giving us
Yes.
water? Is he doing
Mhm.
something? And if I have a friend who do the same thing, my monitors will run off to the back end of the cage. It'll be a lot more skittish. It could be because of my approach, but I'm not going to say that I come in like tiptoeing to their window. I'll come in normally, walking like I normally do, and they'll just be more curious to me versus someone else.
Well, we're very used to that because chameleons absolutely identify people. They know, who their family is, who
Yep.
their feeding group is, and if there's a stranger, oh, they don't
Yeah.
have anything to do with that person.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is great when you say, "Okay, look, my chameleon will eat out of my hand. It's so cool." And then you bring a friend over, the chameleon's going, "Oh no, no, I'm not going to do this." So, all right. So, what's the breeding situation going? As in, when can we see pictures of babies that you've hatched out?
Well, it's probably going to be towards the end of the year just because of the long gestation period or the long incubation period for tree monitors. So right now I have 3 pairs set up into my breeding colonies, each one in its own individual cage with a lot of what's it called, with a lot of action from these guys and everything like that. I've been for the past month or so cycling them or temp cycling them. That's like the recommended thing to make sure that they can like start developing follicles that they can allow them to become gravid. But after they lay, which is about 30 days after you witness copulation, you have about 150 to 200 days for incubation for these guys. So it's quite some time. They're not the longest, but one of the longest kind of incubation periods for monitors, and so that'll be something towards later in the year. Hopefully, we're crossing our fingers again. We got 3 pairs going, so we'll see what happens. That should lead to a lot of babies.
Okay. Well, we've got a question from Emerald Garrett asking, what do you find the most fascinating in blue tree monitors in comparison to other reptiles?
That's funny you say that. For me, I'm gonna be a little biased because, first off, my favorite color is blue, but that has
Yeah.
nothing really with why I work with them. For me, it was like back in the day of like forums. I used to be on this forum called Reptic Zone, which was like they had one of the best monitor pages I've ever witnessed. I remember being on there messing with all the old people like Krusty, Banshee Racer, all these different usernames that would post these amazing setups for monitors. And one day, someone posted a picture of like the entire complex, so the greens, the blues, the yellows, the blacks, in one photo. And when I saw that, I was like, wow, these things it looks like candy, like, in someone's hand, in these lizards. And the blues for me just struck out as like this amazing colored animal. I don't ever see a blue. What do you see a blue animal other than like a fish? You never see a blue animal. I just thought they were so fascinating. And then I found out that they were the bigger of the monitors. I've dealt with smaller monitors like Ackies. I had Savannah monitors. I had black-headed monitors. They don't tend to get that big. And when I found out this lizard stays slender and up to 4 foot, I was like, wow, that's a nice hefty monitor, that I can have around. And so that really drew me to it. And then I started realizing like how endangered, how they're not doing so well in the wild and everything like that due to poaching and kind of like the small island that they're from, making it so difficult for people to even study these guys. That led me on to like this path of wanting to research, wanting to like commit to these animals and work directly with these animals to see if maybe we can do a change, whether it's like working with different like zoological institutions or helping other people set up their own captive breeding programs once I figured out mine. So that's what led me to it. But right now I only work with these guys. I don't work with any other animals, and I've dedicated my life, space, and time to the blue tree monitors.
Do you know how long they live?
That's a good question. From my research, the oldest one that I know of in captivity has been about 15 years, something like that.
Okay.
15, 16 years is what right now. There's a lady, like I said, her name I think is the reptile whisperer, and I'll find her name here circling. But she has a female going on 14 years that's still breeding for her. So
Okay.
so I would assume they live a little bit longer, but because they haven't had a lot of time in captivity, for the most part, blue tree monitors only discovered, I think it was like in 2001 or something. They were scientifically discovered,
Yeah.
so they're still pretty new out here.
Well, Kelly, that's right. Kelly Zonner is asking, do they have to be in their own individual cage or can they be kept together?
That's That's a good question. So I would say if you have a male and female, you know, you can keep them together in a cage. As adults, they tend to like bond and pick each other and start to become very comfortable and familiar with each other. Males do not do well at all. At all. I've actually seen it where I introduced a male into a cage with another male just to see what will happen, and immediately the bigger male started displaying dominance, going over the male. Like it could end into a very bad situation. So it all depending on animals. Now, another thing I would say I would tend to not put them together unless you're trying to create like a breeding colony or something like that. Only because the things that I found out with blue tree monitor is that one of them will become a dominant person of that cage, and in doing so, it will lead that male or that female to start becoming very food aggressive and very hungry and very dominant of that space, which will allow the other animal to maybe deteriorate and not like having food and not being able to bask and things like that. Things that I do to combat that with my cages, I will do I generally do 2 to 3 basking zones. So in here, you can see that I have 2 basking zones for one lizard. So he has a space to go. That's just how I am. In my other ones, I have 2 basking zones at the top. Plus, I have another basking zone at the bottom of the cage just to give them options so that there's never a cold monitor. I have my feeding dishes as well. I do these little feeding dishes in here, and you can see them all displayed in the cage as well. I put numerous units of these fixtures all over the place so that again my monitors have access to food and water and everything like that. So there's never an animal that doesn't have its necessities. So keep that in mind. And I believe that's with any animal, but they're hit or miss. It just depends on the individual animals you're working with, to be quite honest.
Okay. Nathan is asking, what's the temps for their habitat?
That's a good question. They vary for sure. For me, I tend to keep my ambient air temperature inside these cages at around like 85 to 90 degrees is what I keep the ambient top, like the top portion of it. The basking zones I tend to keep between 110 to 120 for basking, and then the lower sides of the temps I try to not let them go below like 75, 80. I want to keep in that range. They're from a very hot and humid place. You know, the islands of Indonesia, the Batanta Islands, specifically from where these from, is a very wet and rainy location that's very humid, very hot. And so I try to replicate that as much as I can. But those are the general range. A basking zone about 110, 120. If you go higher than that, you can potentially burn them. There are people that keep them higher. I feel more comfortable at about 120, 110. And then just overall like 80, 85 degree ambient temperature. And you'll do fine with those guys. But hydration, make sure that at these high temps that you're hydrating your animals completely. Making sure they get water, access to plenty of water, access to some type of maybe misting system if you can't spray them directly. And yeah, that way that you have no issues with these guys.
Okay. Sarah is asking, do you think they're more intelligent than most other reptiles?
Oh my God. Yes, 100%. Yes, they are. I have one particular tree monitor. Her name is Houdini, and she's got the name Houdini because once she found the smallest crack in my cage, I couldn't find this thing for the longest time. She remembered and recognized how to get into that hole and get out of her cage every single time, and it was like nonstop for like a week straight. And I was just like, how are you getting out of this cage? And they're that smart. And my monitors, they learn that like now that I feed them with the fixtures, they know exactly like if I put food in there in the fixture, they know it's time to eat. They know where to go for these fixtures to find their food and to drink water as well. Again, I mean, the fact that they recognize me when I come into the cage or do any type of maintenance alone to me, shows that they're a very smart animal. And if you look at Dion stuff, where he's teaching his animals how to eat out of the little small tubes to get crickets, he's showing that these lizards are smart enough to stick their hand inside of a bowl that they can't put their mouth in, to be smart to use your hand as a tool to grab food out. I mean, what kind of a smart lizard, in my opinion,
All right. Yeah, I agree with that. Okay. Next question is, oops, let's get that go. Oh, sorry. It's asking how many individuals you currently have and how many enclosures.
So I have, at the moment in my position, I have 8 blue tree monitors. I have one, two, three, four, five females. I have five females, three males. One female is on a breeder loan from a friend of mine, and I have 7 enclosures total in the that are all. I have 7 enclosures. Six of them are 6 foot by 4 foot by 30 inches, and then the other one is, as you see back here. This is the smaller one of them all.
Okay.
A 4 foot by 4 foot by 2 foot, and yeah, the electricity, especially living in New York, is a little bit on the yeah, for sure. It's light because I light up. I have about 3 lights per cage on average, 3 to 4 lights per cage on average, lighting up about 12 hours a day. It can get expensive for sure.
All right. Next question. What do you do for enrichment?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, I mean, so for food and everything, like they have a really big enclosure. They have a big enclosure. I can show you right now. See if I can like flip this out or anything like that. But I have one of the monitors. Literally, he's just exploring the entire cage right now. I'm not sure if you can see that, but that's El Chapo. And you can, he has enough space here that he can just move all around. He's one of my more active, but they tend to be very curious and go all around the cage and everything like that themselves. So again, the cages provide. That's why I'm more of a bigger is better in my opinion. That we have an animal that's not bored, stuck in a limited space. My animals can climb from top to bottom of their enclosures. If you can see behind me, I build these fake rock walls to allow them to be able to go all over the place. I would say that once a month, I also redesign the entire cage. So soil gets replaced, plants get introduced or moved, the logs and everything like that get moved. And also with my food fixtures, because I have so many in a cage, I can place and move water in different places so that they're always looking and searching and everything like that for that. Another great thing is the grasshoppers is because the grasshoppers are so big and so kind of like explorative themselves. I can throw in a handful and they'll go crazy chasing those all day long.
Okay.
So,
how active are they during the day?
tree monitors very very active. Morning time as they're like starting to like warm up and everything like that, they tend to just chill and bask and everything. But as soon as these guys get up to temp, they're digging, they're going all over the place. I have some of them they'll jump from the other side to the other side. My males are chasing females trying to breed. They're very active lizards, which is again why I say bigger is better. I'm going to always advocate this because I just feel as though an animal of this nature needs the space for sure.
Now, why do they go down to the ground and dig?
That's a good question. I've never been able to answer that, nor has other experts in this field. But I have a couple of my monitors will go down to the ground and dig, and then just lay in like tunnels that they build themselves.
Interesting.
Yeah, they'll lay in tunnels that they build themselves. I have one male that digs, and I don't know whether he's looking for food or what it is. He'll just go and he'll put his snout in the ground and just start digging with his hands, and he'll come up all dirty, muddy to the face and everything like that, and he'll act like nothing happened. But there's only 2 of my lizards that will do that. The other ones don't display that behavior at all.
Okay. Now, when they lay the eggs, first of all, I've been wondering, are the eggs hard? Is it a hard calcified egg?
I believe so. I haven't had direct contact with them, but they tend to look like a pretty. I don't think they're like as hard as like a turtle egg or anything like that. I think they're more of a softer egg because there's the case of like them sweating, also deflating as well as when incubating them. So I don't believe they are like a completely hard one, but more so of like a python egg or something like that is what I've gotten from other people.
Okay. Now, is there any interaction between the parents and the eggs or the babies?
No, I don't believe so, unfortunately.
Okay.
So because when these monitors lay eggs, when the females lay eggs, they become very cage aggressive or are very protective of their nests. So there are reports of females actually killing males, chasing off males. Vanessa Crutchfield from the Crutchfield farm showed this amazing video of one of her yellow tree monitors laying eggs, and as soon as it did, it started going wild against the male, chasing him away to protect her nest. So that was a cool, interesting thing that was found there. And then there's also the thing of babies. with blue tree monitors, particularly, apparently they become very aggressive and combative when they're young and born, to the point where they can potentially harm each other, and they should be raised separately. Whereas
Okay.
I hear from green tree monitors, they're a little bit more chill, a little bit more easier to raise up together. But blues apparently are not good.
Interesting. So, do you have a sense for how different the husbandry is between the different monitor colors, shall we say?
There, from what my understanding, my research, everyone tends to keep them completely the same in terms of like the everything is completely the same. I would say if somebody were to go out and actually do a field survey, they'd find that it's probably super different, honestly, in some
Okay.
way. With in particular some of the localities for the green tree monitors, like the ones from like northern Queensland, I would assume that's a drier, aerated kind of like environment versus somewhere like in the middle of Indonesia or Bantana where it's raining the majority of the day and things like that. So I'm curious myself to see what those field studies would bring along, but for the most part, everyone keeps them the same kind of general field. And there's some people that have luck breeding them and some people that don't have luck breeding them.
Okay. Now, when we talked about on the interview, you talked about how of all the colors, it was actually the yellow that was the rarest. Uh, what they're all from different islands in the same area. What is different between their environments that one can be more rare than the other?
That's another great question. In terms of like availability is what makes them more rare here in the
Yeah.
US, kind of like in the US market. So with the yellows, I believe those were like found. I don't know if they were found as recently as the blues, but they just come from an island. I think that's a lot harder to get to comparative to the other islands. In my opinion, if I were to make a guess, I would say it's either the blues or the blacks that they're probably the most endangered. Only because the blues come from the smallest island that could be at any moment kind of washed away. Anything
Mm.
from an environmental disaster, earthquake, something like this nature can literally do so much harm to that island, and we can lose the entire population of blue tree monitors. The blacks are becoming incredibly hard to find in the wild. That people are almost saying that they've been like almost poached, out of
Mhm.
existence in their native land. So um, it's hit or miss, to be quite honest. The greens are more plentiful because they have a broader kind of range to be
Yeah.
found. They can be found on mainland and as well as these small islands and everything like that. And yeah, the smaller islands just tend to have these small pockets of wild populations of blues and blacks that are just harder to get to.
Okay. Gretel is asking about tree monitor books that you can recommend.
That's a beautiful book. Let me actually, if you don't mind, I'm gonna grab right here so you can see it. But yeah, I
Yeah,
do.
let's do it. That's right. Show and tell. As he checks his library.
This book right here, hopefully you can see it straight and everything like that. But this book right here, the Tree Monitor Basics book, it is a book by, there goes, Brand. It looks like a German name. I'm not sure how to say that, but this is a beautiful book. You can get it off of Amazon. This book covers everything from where you can find them, the localities available, even some tree monitors that you probably didn't even know of, like the golden spotted tree monitor or
Nope.
yeah, exactly, like or that tree monitors can be found in Australia. They have the entire map of the different islands that they might be from, what they're eating, the different kind of experiences with zoos trying to breed them and everything like that. And then at the back, as you can see, you'll see things like species list. So we have Bakari here, which is the black tree monitors. Gives you a cool little detail about that stuff. We'll have green tree monitors. Yeah, let me show you. Let me show you the black spotted, because you guys would be like, wow. Oh, look at this. Never seen that. It's a double-headed blue tree monitor.
Whoa.
Yeah, yeah. So it's a cool book. It's definitely a cool book. Yeah, yeah. These are yellows right here. They're not. They look green, but they're yellows. But beautiful book for sure. I will highly recommend this. We'll give you all the basics on how to keep them. It's a little bit dated, the information, but still a good basis to start off with that stuff for sure.
All right. Well, one is asking, how much is a tree monitor?
Oh, yeah. So the market at this point is wild for a tree monitor. As of right now, there's such a tree monitor craze with people so interested in these animals because people like Dion have brought them to light and shown how cool and fascinating these animals are. So the market is very kind of up and down. Right now, if you want to get a tree monitor, a green tree monitor for a captive bred species, you're looking in the realm of like $15,000 to $2,000 for one animal. Captive bred is where I would always suggest going, by the way. You can find a wild caught specimen. They're harder to find now these days because import limitations have been set on them. So they're just a little bit more difficult to get wild caught. CB animals are the way to go, by the way. They're just more healthier, easier to take care of. But when you look at them, yellow tree monitors, those guys, captive bred animals are selling for about $4,000 to $5,000 for one animal. Blacks are going around 15 to 2 grand for captive bred, and then blue tree monitors are going around 25 to up to $4,000. I'm seeing right now for one animal. So, and coming from like a couple years ago, that price has doubled. From what they were available for before.
All right, that tree monitor book. What was it? I'm looking it up and I'm going to post it.
You can find it on Amazon. Amazon sells it. I hope they still have these
Was it Emerald Monitors Basics?
Yeah, looks like it's keeping and breeding emerald monitors. The Varnus Prasinus group.
Okay. What's the author?
The author is Brand. Looks like
Oh yeah, that's it.
BRND and it's Edimund. It's a very German name.
Okay.
EIDENMULLER.
Well, let's see. Not having, and the title was the care
Keeping and breeding emerald monitors.
keeping and breeding.
Yeah, keeping and breeding emerald monitors.
All right, we're gonna find this thing. Hey, there it is. All right, I'm gonna post a link.
Yeah. Oh, it's gone up now. $30 now on Amazon.
$30. There we go. You can try that. Oh man, only 7 left. All right, so we're gonna buy them all out. So, all right, let's see. We've got Sarah is back. Do you feed strictly invertebrate prey or vertebrate and eggs as well?
I do a big mixture of prey. So I do everything from crickets. I breed my own dubia roaches. I breed my own grasshoppers. I do supplement them sometimes eggs to the females when they're like in a breeding kind of cycle, and I want them to like be able to absorb as much as those nutrients and things like that. I do mice for very picky monitors that are very slender. Like when I get an imported animal that's having a lot of difficulties like maintaining or gaining weight, I will feed it rodents in order to help it gain some weight until I move it on to a vertebrate kind of diet. But in my opinion, invertebrate diet like bugs is a lot more healthier than any type of like whole prey like chicks or mice. These animals can and will get very obese very fast. And the last thing you want to do is to get a very heavy kind of animal, because once you get it to that point of obesity, it's very hard to get them to slim down again.
Yeah, we have that problem with chameleons too.
Yeah.
So if you feed your tree monitors just insect prey, how much does their poop stink?
Less than feeding mice, to be quite honest. A lot less. Yeah, when you feed them mice and you feed them chicks and quails, which is the normal to some people in the industry, they tend to take a lot messier, poops and things like that. So it's a lot better for sure. And I'm pretty sure the plants love it a lot more.
I used to have some frilled dragons, and I could clean their cage pristine. But if I had vertebrate prey, within a half an hour, it was just all over the place because they would run through it.
Right.
So they have all the things to climb in, but yeah, they had to run through their poop. But, okay, so All right. Once again, somebody's asking how long do they live, and we talked about so far. We've got some that are 15 years and going and still going strong. So, how big is the tree monitor, our blue tree monitor community, and say tree monitor community?
I would say the tree monitor community is it's small but expanding a lot. You know, it's the only reason it's small is because there's not a lot of like information out there, you know, about these guys. There are a couple little groups online. You know, I can think of like three of them. They're on Facebook. The Tree Monitor, it's a Tree Monitor community. Literally, the Tree Monitor page, run by Matthew Cosman, is probably the most popular one. You've had some of like the industry greats like John from Sim. You've had Matthew Cosman, who's a big breeder. Brandon from Canadian Cold Blood. You've had Forrest Fanning when he was, you know, with us. He was on there as well. He started on that page. So a lot of top tree monitor guys, you know, congregate in this page to talk about their experiences and what they find. So it's been a vast knowledgeable place, but it's growing. You know, there's more and more people getting into the hobby for tree monitors. They're asking questions, building large enclosures, and things like that. So it's growing. It's growing very, very fast for sure. And I can't wait to see it, because the more people in this, in this group, the more we get to find out different stuff. Because right now we're all working with such dated knowledge, you know, of what's been working for the past 20 years, 30 years. And no one's really innovating because it's working, you know, and they're like, why change the formula if it's working? So, you know, the more people that get in here and the more people are like, hey, I want to change stuff up and I want to try different things, the more you'll start seeing, you know, like, for example, when I came in and I was a newer guy and I started experimenting with arboreal lay boxes and giving subterranean heat or heat, like basking zones to the bottom portion of your cages, using big cages, you know, things like that, like just doing using 3D printing to incorporate with my animals, doing these things that got me a lot of like, you know, pushback from certain people, but other people embraced it, you know. So I want to see more of that. I want to see what the next generation of people working with these guys might bring into this for sure. It's exciting. It's really exciting.
All right, let's talk a little bit about that 3D printing. That's actually how I met Eddy, is through the 3D printing. What do you do with 3D printing?
I do all sorts of stuff. Everything that can help me with, you know, keeping these animals healthy and just innovating in different designs. I own like a 3D printing like design and manufacturing kind of like sub company type of deal. So I have access to these machines and this knowledge. But with the animals, I've helped develop so far a means to be able to feed them and water them, you know, fairly easily to picky animals. The problem that I was having was figuring out how to like count, first off, what my animals are eating, kind of, you know, be able to measure what they're eating, making sure they're also eating, and deliver a way to feed them crickets and grasshoppers and things like that. So I developed these holders, which is what kind of like got me into the whole reptile space with the 3D printing stuff. And this is basically a little fixture that can hold these little deli cups like this. And if you look behind me, you can kind of get an example of how these deli cups are being held and everything like that in place with water. And this allows you to feed, water, take care of your animals very easily. Right now, I would say, like, in terms of the community, I know the tree monitor community, like, I would say 70% of them right now are rocking these guys. You know, they're loving them, they're using them and things like that. So that was one thing. I also started working with arboreal nest hides that that imitate termite mounds. And so that's what led me to meeting Bill. Bill saw the interest in that and everything like that. And like, here is a prototype of
look at that,
what we're actually going to be working on. So you can see it's a dome. It's shaped like an egg. Let me see if I can move out of here a little bit. It's shaped like an egg. And I have these 3 entry holes to give a monitor any type access to it from 3 different locations. And I made it kind of like very like organically shaped, kind of resemble as a, you know, as a termite mound, so it just hides better and everything like that. This guy, the final object will be able to pop off or screw on, and then I'll be able to place these guys in numerous areas around the cage to hopefully show that tree monitors can, or give my tree monitors a place to lay and kind of, you know, produce safely. So yeah.
That looks really small. Is that just a model of it?
That's a model. This is just a
Okay.
model, just so that people, when I like bring them around, I can show them easily instead of having to carry this big old
Yeah.
thing that's already fixed in and stuff like that.
Uh-huh.
So this is a small model for that entire thing. Um, but yeah, it's a cool thing. And what led me to go this route was just seeing, the environment from where these guys are from, and seeing that, termite mounds and everything like that are available in these areas, and also hearing that croc monitors that are endemic from the same location or regions as tree monitors were already utilizing termite mounds. You know,
Okay.
my favorite thing that I just found out recently was I found a study that I'll send it to you later, Bill, if you'd like to post it up later. But it was an actual research paper where these people discovered the only recorded egg hatching of green tree monitors, and guess where they were in? Where they found?
But why would they lay eggs in a termite mound? They're arboreal species. What's up with this?
It worked. So termite mounds are actually found in trees.
Oh, okay.
There are termite mounds that are found in trees where these termites will build their mounds literally within, like, on a branch system, and they'll encase the entire tree in a whole mound that they build, in the canopy. So these monitors are digging inside of these mounds and laying eggs, because inside of these termite mounds is the perfect temp regulated zone. So you're having it protected from the rain, protected from the elements, protected from any other kind of animals that want to come through and eat them. And then the best part about it is that when they're hatched, they were actually recorded a group of Fascination, which is the green tree monitors, eating the termites for a couple of days before they left the nest.
So the termites are active in these mounds
Yeah, they're
when
active in their mounds, eating and everything like that. And I guess they're not attacking the eggs. They're just using these places. And again, this is one recorded, documented case that's available right now. But I still, for me, it makes sense. I just don't see an arboreal lizard going to the ground to lay eggs. They definitely did find them in the nest, laying, and the babies, again, eating the termites after they were
this is Sarah, who is a biologist, is saying probably temperature control too. Insect activity probably makes a good bit hotter. It's possible termites will defend against other predators that would eat the
That's
eggs.
what I was saying right now. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, yeah.
So it made for me, that just made sense. I always believed, like, I just couldn't see these lizards going to the ground. They're already so small. They're already so delicate. For a lizard like that to be on the ground digging eggs, it's probably not going to be able to dig a 8-foot tunnel where its eggs will be safe. So the only thing for me that made sense was that they're going to go and use canopy, whether it's a tree hole or a nest. For me, this just made more sense, because once they dig a nest, the termites are going to repair it, and they're going to be safe in the inside of it. So
Interesting. So the termites bury the egg, and then when the baby hatches, the termites don't attack the baby.
man, termites eat wood. They're not like.
Oh yeah, but I've picked up termites before, and that's not been fun. They'll chop a finger off, part of your finger off. Well, all right. Well, hey, it seems like it works. Now, how did you decide what elements of a termite mound to try to replicate with a 3D printer?
Well, because I've seen it. So my father's from the Dominican Republic. So I've already been to other islands where I've seen this. I've seen
Okay.
these termite mounds in the wild. Like, you'd see these giant trees, and they'll have this big piece of, like, it looks like dirt almost, completely covered around these trees, and when you throw a rock at it, you'll see termites come out of it. So I've already seen it. I've already known that this thing existed. And it wasn't until I started kind of like looking into the Indonesia, like what that area looked like. A lot of photos show these, tree dwelling termite mounds. I was like, that's interesting that they're there and no one's paying attention to this. And then me hearing other interviews with, like, Corey from Toothless Reptiles, who did the croc monitor experiments. He had this crazy old facility in California working with these guys. He found out that when he tried to breed his croc monitors, what gave him the most success was to have these elevated trash cans as high as he could in his enclosure, and his tree monitors, his crocodile monitors would then breed inside of those and lay eggs. But when he had
Okay.
anything on the bottom, they wouldn't reproduce at all. They wouldn't lay eggs. He couldn't get anything. And so that he kind of found the information again about tree nests and everything like that, which then led me to be like, hey, they're from the same place. It probably makes sense. And that kind of led on to me developing that idea and everything like that. So right now, what I have as a quick way to make my nest before this thing was basically a giant holder. It's a holder similar to what I would have before, but I was able to then use these flower pots, and I can place these all along my cage, and now I have these things full of dirt that mimic an arboreal nest house.
Okay.
Give them nesting options up higher and everything like that. So that's one of the ways that we're like working around this entire idea, just to prove the concept, to be able to then work on it further.
All right. You have a design question here. Sarah, this is from Sarah again. Notice that you have simulated open tunnels on the nests as well. Also, is that to help with airflow?
No, so the open tunnels is actually to keep these things moist, because they're in these cages where I have what's it called, misting systems installed into these enclosures. I wanted these things to have drains. So these old holes lead to little drains that allow all the substrate to be moistened, drained, dry out, and just keep a very compact, tight soil inside of here is what the joy. So these holes are so that the animal has 3 different entry points at which to pick to where it wants to go inside the nest and things like that. So whether it wants to be a little bit higher, a little bit lower, things like that. So that's the idea behind this. But by me having these entry holes, it allows the cage to regulate the temperature of the inside of this a little bit better, versus it being outside with all these other type of environmental changes. Mine are a little bit more controlled. This just helps me a little bit better.
Oh, let me tell you, it is 3D printing is such an incredible thing for the reptile industry, because it allows people who are obsessed with the intricate needs of a certain species to create a product that specifically helps. Like, nobody else is going to manufacture. ZooMed's not going to manufacture a blue tree monitor nesting egg termite mound. So this is just an incredible application of new technology for our community. And that's actually why I brought him on to the Reptile Entrepreneur podcast, because this is exactly what we should be doing. Oh, well, we're going to be coming up to the end. So if anybody has any more questions, go ahead, put them in. And but as they're putting their last questions, Eddy, what is in the future for you and your blue tree monitors?
Well, I mean, I'm hoping to definitely have successful clutches this year. And I want to keep on growing the project. Me being in New York, it's tight to work here because space is so limited. So I might have plans to move to a different location to have more space. That way that I can work with the different complexes as well, because I would love to be able to work with the greens, the blacks, the yellows, both spotted one day if I can get them. I want to be able to help all of them. But what I really am focusing on right now is getting these guys to breed so that I've been collecting as much data from videos, information I find, everything, writing it down to hopefully potentially publish a book from what I have, the information and experience I have, or in a website, whatever, it's easier, but to put all this information so that other people have that collected data to use to help them out with their projects and stuff like that. The ultimate goal would be to help start and fund other facilities that want to do the same. They want to help the blue tree monitor. They want to help kind of captive populations and learn. And then for me to be kind of like a mentor teacher to those guys, I started the page Father Blue so that I can be known as the blue tree monitor guy. And I hope that, I can fulfill that dream.
All right. Well, we got a number of people who are thanking you for coming on here. Oh, they thank me too. It has been a lot of fun. This is I do this on the Chameleon Academy podcast. I'm going to be doing about once every month, where we bring in a cool other reptile, and it's actually surprising as to how popular these episodes are. And by the way, it's apparently you are responsible for Amazon selling a bunch of their books. So, all right, everybody, thank you very much for joining us. And we will see the full interview is on the Chameleon Academy podcast. So just go to that chameleonacademy.com or download the free Chameleon Academy app. It's for iTunes or Google Play, and you'll get all the episodes there. That's actually the best way to do it, or on any podcast app, listening app. And you can hear the full interview where we go over all the husbandry. And so if you're interested in becoming part of the Blue Tree Monitor community, Eddy goes into detail into how all the husbandry and how he takes care of his Blue Tree monitors. So that's a great resource to get started. So Nathan's asking, when will you do another chameleon video? Actually, I'm working on those right now. You're probably going to see all of a sudden a tidal wave because I got to get over a couple of other things. But yeah, you'll be seeing some chameleon videos soon. Oh, anyway, all right, everybody.